Welcome back to the College Football Recap Show, brought to you by the FF Dynasty. And we're here today. I'm here with the most ball-knowingest, Devy-knowingest, one of the most well-rounded individuals in them Devy streets. Everything that you need to know about college football is tied to this guy and his beautiful brain. And we're going to pick his brain today and talk about, do I need to do the thing? I don't think I need to do the thing, but if you think I need to do the thing, I'll do the thing. But anyway, hey, we're here today to talk about the tiers of this first iteration. It's November, guys, so let's calm down a little bit. But we're going to talk about our first iteration of tiers for this 2026 class, particularly the elite guys that we're kind of starting to hear mocked up. But Dustin, how are we doing today, bro?
Chef, man, I'm good. Coffee's flowing, right? We get to talk about some of these guys. I'm feeling good, dude. Just, had to wipe the crust out of my eyes a little bit, but I'm happy. I'm ready. I'm here with one of my good friends, and we get to talk ball. So, who's got better than us?
Nobody. Yes. But listen, so we're gonna go S tier, which is just bona fide studs. A tier, B tier, and C tier. Give you 15 names. 15 guys, and where we have them. Obviously, that's going to move around a little bit as we go along. But without further ado, man, why don't you kick us off with your first tier, which is the S tier?
Okay. So right here, the first one, right off the rip, I got one of the most electrifying players in the country, and that's Jeremiyah Love. He's locked and loaded as my Dynasty Rookie 101. I think obviously he does it all, right? He's a dynamic pass catcher out of the backfield, and he could rip one to the house. And we've talked ad nauseum about these running backs that are able to flip your weekly matchups based on these spike week potential. And, currently, Chev, he's being mocked to the Minnesota Vikings. That's been a fun team when I do my mock drafts on PFF. Like, I would love him in that Kevin O'Connell system. I think he would flash, dude. And then did you want me to keep going on with the other guys, or just one at a time?
Go ahead, rock out. Give us your whole S tier, and then I'll go through my S tier.
Okay, sounds good. Second one right there, I got to go with a guy who steadily just continues to creep up my rankings. I've currently got him as wide receiver 1, and that is my Trojan Makai Lemon. Look, he's dynamic out there. Again, much the same things that I said about Jeremiyah Love can be applied to this guy, only he's, catching the rock out there. He's lining up outside and in the slot, and I think that that's going to translate to the NFL. Hopefully he finds some creative offensive coordinator that can really utilize him. And then I got Jordyn Tyson, who he has fallen down just a bit just because I haven't really seen him out there. Of course, with the injury to Sam Levitt and what's going on there, he might just be shutting it down in preparation for the draft. Of course, people are going to be looking at this production profile now, Chev, and they're going to have some question marks. But for me, he's put enough on tape to just solidify that he's an NFL level guy. He's a first round talent. So I've still got him here in my S tier. And then following that, we got your boy, Gospel George, man, out there with a 92% contested catch rate. Some ridiculous numbers out there just on a weekly basis, showing that he's probably going to be the next Ohio State wide receiver to be drafted in the first round and just come in and start dominating immediately. So to me, Chev, this whole tier right here, these four prospects that I mentioned here, these are my can't miss prospects here in the first round of your rookie drafts.
Absolutely love that. I went about my S tier a little bit differently just because I wanted people to understand how special I feel like Jeremiyah Love is and what he's going to be. So in my S tier, it's just Jeremiyah Love alone. That's it. I classify him as an immediate blue chip asset. We got him mocked. The NFL mock draft database that I put in the notes for here. As of, the 15th yesterday, he was mocked to the Vikings. I'm starting to see a lot of the Twitter accounts, the fan accounts, that like Titans fan accounts, like Sleeper Titans. They are saying they're saying like, hey, we're going to trade back in the first, like that trade back package. One of those picks that we get in the first round is going to be Jeremiyah Love, which made me ecstatic when I heard that. Super excited for that. But why don't you go on with your A tier, and then I'll back you up and go. I almost said I'll backdoor you.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Well, I thought you were going to say you're backing up on me.
Whoa. No, see,
Whoa.
see, we used to be a high society. Okay, guys. And now we're talking about backing it up before 10 a.m. Central Time on a Sunday. All right. What's happening right here?
This is the Lord's Day, Chef.
I give up. No, but hey, for real though, we're gonna go with your A tier. And I love this because there's a name in here. You guys called us out, not called us out in a bad way, but you guys called us out, and we wanted to make sure that you were heard because you've been singing the praises of one of the guys that's now in the A tier, and I completely agree with it. So go off.
Yeah, look, first one, Fernando Mendoza. The last episode that we put out, people in the comments rightfully said he's probably too low. And I had to recognize, Chev, that there was a little bit of bias in there. I still don't think he's like a transcendent level player, but with the likelihood of Fernando Mendoza being QB1, getting that first round draft capital, you naturally do have to have that reflected in your rankings, no matter how I necessarily feel about him as a prospect. But before I move on to these guys, I do just got to say, man, dude's got some toughness, some grit to him, that I didn't really anticipate or even really know about before this. So I do love me a tough SOB out there, especially at the quarterback position as a leader who's able to take those hits and keep moving the chains and having those game-winning drives. Like he's got a little bit of clutch to him. So I'm really intrigued. Like I told somebody in the comments, he has traits that I'm intrigued by. And so I'm having that reflected now in these rankings. And we will continue to see. Like you said, it's November. Things are subject to change. But moving on here in the A tier, I have my guy Emmett Johnson, who's somebody that I haven't really seen very many people talking about. He was a guy who was in my book of secrets after week 1, 108-yard performance versus Cincinnati. And look, dude, continues to look explosive. He's amongst the top of his peers in terms of missed tackles forced throughout the country. I think that in this class, he's the second best receiving back after Jeremiyah Love. He's got decent size to him. He doesn't have like elite breakaway speed, but he's got enough to get those chunk plays. He's got enough to take one to the crib, man. That's going to score you fantasy points. Like I said, he's a good wide receiver. He's just so shifty and elusive out there. He's really fun. If you guys want to have a good time, find you some Emmett Johnson tape from Nebraska. And man, like that'll make your whole day. It's such a fun watch. Speaking of a fun watch, Chev, my next guy that I got here is Mr. Justice Haynes, somebody that you termed Home Run Haynes. And I love that like 1950s baseball era nickname, man, but it's so fitting, dude. Like, I don't even know how to quantify it or really explain it. It's just so electric to watch him run the ball. And I hope that he goes somewhere that is going to run those gap scheme concepts because, man, you give him a hole with like a lead blocker through there, dude's gone. And he's so fast that those linebackers that are sitting in the hole, like they don't know how to react because he's just blazing fast. Like I said, hasn't played since week 8 and he's still amongst the leaders in terms of rushing yardage. So, I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about how he was performing up to this date. And then my final one that I have here, Chev, Ty Simpson. I did have to move him down. You and I talked a little pre-show about this. After his performance yesterday against OU, really showed some holes in his game and really just more so the inexperience that he had. OU was blitzing him 25% in the first half and he was dealing a little bit, right? He was making his reads, getting the ball out. And then they amped up the pressure. That Brent Venables defense really amped up the pressure on him. They upped it to 60% blitz. They blitzed him 60% of the time after that. And you really saw the holes in his game come out and he made some errant throws. And it really points to a guy that might need that extra year, which is always good, right? On our prospects profiles, we want guys to have at least like that 25 starts. So who did you have on yours, Chef?
Looking for more FFD? Sign up for Patreon and get access to our rankings, projections, ADP, an extra show every single week, and more for your pleasure.
So because Jeremiyah Love is alone in the S tier for me, I went with the A tier containing all of the first round guys that we kind of project. So right now I've got Makai Lemon in the A tier. He's just been cutting up. He's a Trojan man. I know this guy will protect your lineup just like a Trojan would. Carnell Tate, Gospel George. currently mocked to the Browns. And I'm gonna throw the mock draft, the locations that we have from. This is from the mock NFL, like the mock draft database. I pulled that up, and that's what we used. And so we might have a link to that when you guys see this. But Makai Lemon, 5'11", 195, mock to the 49ers, A tier. Carnell Tate, Gospel George, mock to the Browns, 6'3", 195, mock to the Browns in the first round. Jordyn Tyson, mock to the Giants. That's the third overall pick. Now, here's where we differ a great deal. And I know that you're not the biggest fan of being early on tight ends, but that's where I differ quite a bit. I've got Kenyon Sadiq here. I think Kenyon Sadiq is an Aaron Hernandez RIP. RIP, Aaron Hernandez. I think he's a nuclear level threat. I think this guy is special. And I've been very vocal about Eli Stowers, but what I've seen from Kenyon Sadiq, I mean, I thought he was better than Terrence Ferguson last year, and he's continued down that path this year. And he's currently mocked to the Chiefs. So if that happens, he might be in and this is the third or fourth mock draft I've looked at where I've seen him mocked to the Chiefs. And if that happens, guys, like he'll be in contention for the 101 for me.
Yeah, if he goes to the Chiefs, dude, that's incredible. I mean, as a fan of a division rival, right, that would make me sad. But in terms of dynasty, like that's a system that obviously knows how to use the tight end position. Kenyon Sadiq offers him that athletic, freaky upside that he gets to pair with Pat Mahomes. I mean, how could you not love that? I don't know if he'd be 101 for me, but he would definitely vault up my rankings here, and I would absolutely take someone like that in the first round, especially if he gets the corresponding capital, right? You get the corresponding draft capital, drink, and the athleticism. Like that's a no-brainer for me. So good call out, man.
And then obviously this is not rage bait. I wasn't trying to troll everybody. Fernando Mendoza, also in the A tier. Ty Simpson, also in the A tier. Fernando Mendoza being mocked to the Browns as well. Remember, they had the extra first round pick because they made the trade with the Jaguars. So Carnell Tate goes like mid first. Fernando Mendoza goes second or wherever their pick is set for right now. And then Ty Simpson, who we mentioned earlier, there's going to be an asterisk next to this one because I think that he probably should go back to school based on what I saw yesterday. Yeah. But he had been dealing and had an unreal touchdown to intercept. He still has an unreal touchdown to interception ratio. I think he's at like 22 or 23 touchdowns on the year now to just 2 interceptions. So taking care of the ball, I just think that he needs more starts to get the easy answers out of the way. So go ahead and kick us off with your next tier, your B tier of players here.
Yeah, right here. B tier, I got Denzel Boston, wide receiver out of Washington. Just another alpha, right? Old school, prototypical type wide receiver, big body dude that's going to separate vertically and attack the ball in the air. He's going to be a guy at the NFL that skill is going to translate. Goal line packages, running a fade to him. I love this kid, and I think that he's absolutely an NFL draft first level talent, and I think that's soon going to be reflected in our rookie drafts. I think the general public is just starting to catch up to this guy, and if you've been watching him all season, like he's been incredible. I don't think he's up to where Rome Odunze was in that offense, but I mean he's pretty close, and he's absolutely a first round talent, like I said. Yeah. Second guy is. Were you going to say something, Chef?
No, I'm in lockstep with I love Denzel Boston. I have a type.
Yeah, you absolutely do. And I think to start the season, I was a little lower on him, but you can't knock what he's done this year. Being the dude in that offense, like I said, him and Damon Williams have a really good connection, especially on those fade passes. It's a pretty beautiful connection to watch. But my next guy in this tier is one that I am very high on. I am very bullish on Chris Brazzell from Tennessee. And look, there's a stigma around this offense. I have a really good article that I posted to Substack on this. To make a long story short, Chev, they are running more NFL concepts in this offense now. And I think that bodes well for his future translation to the NFL. When you got a guy who's 6'5" and is routing dudes up, like what's not to like? And he's always going to be a vertical threat as well. So I got him locked and loaded here. he's somebody that I'm probably going to have a lot of shares on because I'm going to take the discount of people who just automatically helmet scout and say, oh, he's a Tennessee wide receiver. That they don't work out in the NFL. So I'm going to love taking those discounts. And if you're hearing this, I think you should too. Next two guys are Jeremy Bernard, wide receiver from Bama. He's a guy that I've just loved because he's kind of taken over that room in a room with Ryan Williams, who everybody predicted to take that next step. He's just been the guy that Ty Simpson looks to, I think, because he's an intelligent route runner. He's really good at sitting in the soft spots and zones, and then he can beat you in one-on-one coverage. So he's a do-it-all guy. He's even getting snaps out of the backfield. Right. Like he's a do it all type wide receiver. And I really love his game. And the more I've watched, I've just fallen in love. My last guy here is a guy who stole my heart many, many months ago. And it pains me to move him down this low. And that's Jonah Coleman. I've seen enough on Tape Chef to feel pretty solid with who he is as a prospect and what he's going to be able to do at the next level. But he's been nicked up a little bit. He got hurt this last game, and then had to sit out this yesterday as well. After a red hot start, Chev, he's kind of slowed down, and there's some concerns that Josh Hawkins from the Devi Dojo kind of pointed out that has me a little hesitant on Jonah Coleman, so I had to reflect that in these rankings. But overall, I'm not too concerned, but I did have to put guys like Emmett Johnson ahead of him at this point.
I absolutely love that you are being reasonable and saying like, hey, we gotta change. Me personally, I ain't moving nowhere. So Jonah Coleman is going to kick off. And now I will say this, in all seriousness, I did have to move him down to the B tier because I did believe that he is an A tier player. But like we always say, here with the FF Dynasty, you don't have to select them where you believe that their talent lies.
Right.
You can play the market and just profit. We did this with Rondé Gadsden, JCM, Rashard Smith. If you really believe in these guys, you can just get a free square selection in the third or the fourth round. And all of a sudden your team's way more valuable than it was because you were early to the party on a guy where everybody said, oh, he didn't have the draft capital. So moving forward, my B tier kicks off with Jonah Coleman. He's currently got a third round grade in the NFL mock draft database. I think he's got a 3-down skill set, and I think he's going to be a day one. I still believe that he's going to be a day one starter. Then we've got Justice Haynes. He's currently has a second round grade on the big board. I think, like I said, home run Haynes has big play juice. I think he's instantly adding an explosive one play drive element to whatever room that he joins. Like that's just what he is. Then I've got Denzel Boston. In this tier. Like I said, I have a type, and he has taken that step forward. I think that he's going to be able to come in and be a contributor, at least like a move the chains guy. Worst case scenario, you get Juwan Jennings, who I think is a damn fine football player. Then I've got Emmett Johnson. This is just, he's electrifying. So I think right now the database that they haven't adjusted it yet. So they've got him as like a day 3 pick. Go watch this guy play football. And tell me that this is not the prototypical space satellite back that can do it all at the NFL level. So he's the only running back in Nebraska history with 2 receiving touchdowns in a game and 100 yards rushing and 100 yards receiving in a game. That all happened in the same game. Okay. So this is a stud. All right. And you be early to this party. People are starting to hop on the train. You were first, Dustin. I give you all the credit and kudos for that. You were absolutely first on this. So shout out to you. But yeah, I think that this guy is an Omega level. Like if he gets the right landing spot, we're going to have an RJ Harvey-esque rise like RJ Harvey did when he landed with the Broncos this past year. And then closing out the tier, I've got Kevin Concepcion, Texas A&M, 5'10", 190 pounds. I think that people have labeled him a gadget guy and just say that he can't. Like there's certain C-to-C people who are not my favorite people who just absolutely just were like, my spreadsheet says that he's a gadget guy. Well, he transferred to Texas A&M, got the bag, and now he's shown you he's got a real complete receiver package. If you watch the second half of the Texas A&M and South Carolina game yesterday, you saw Kevin Concepcion. Like, he's going to he improves your special teams because he can return punts, and he takes that dynamic ability and he's able to separate and create space in the intermediate and deep levels of the field, in addition to being able to catch like a smoke and take it to the house. So, and then last but not least, Eli Stowers, his grade has dropped somehow for some reason, but I'm buying the dip because I think that this guy is easily a day 2 selection. He's got the catch and run ability. He's a former quarterback. He understands coverages, and he's a catch and run threat and a super athlete at the position. It's really more of a big slot wide receiver. And I love that. So yeah, that closes out my tier. You've got Eli Stowers going back bottom to top. Eli Stowers, Kevin Concepcion, Emmett Johnson, Denzel Boston, Justice Haynes, and Jonah Coleman are my B tier. Why don't you lead us off with your C tier?
Yeah, my C tier. Look, I got a guy that you just talked about there in Eli Stowers. I think we just have a difference of philosophy here. Like, the tight end position is really the wild, wild west out there, and it's tough to find start it and don't have to think about it type option at that position, unless you have like your Brock Bowers, right, your Trey McBride, things like that. The landscape throughout the NFL just isn't that great, and we've seen how long it takes these guys to really develop in the NFL. So my overall strategy is typically just to pay for one of those older guys, but I cannot deny some of the talent coming out of this class at that position. While I don't think it's as great as 2025 overall, you got Eli Stowers right there, and he's moved up to my tight end 1. I got to watch some more film of him. He's really good. He's a very intelligent player, and I think he's an underrated blocker out there. I've seen him move around. I like that he lines up primarily in the slot, like you said, and that's fantasy gold. Like, that's what you want out of your tight ends. You want those guys either flexed out wide or lining up in the slot, running routes on linebackers and things like that, like just matchup nightmares. And that's going to be the skill set that he presents. So I'm all in on Eli Stowers. You were definitely one of the first on there. Like I said, I'm a little slower to come around to tight ends, unless it's a Brock Bowers or somebody just staring in my face right there that just shouts elite prospect at me. Going on to my second in the C tier, I have Antonio Williams, who, if you looked at my rankings prior to this college football season, I had Antonio Williams up there. He's a guy that I think many of us anticipated to be a first-round pick, and with injuries and Clemson just not playing up to the standard that we thought that they were going to, he's dipped down a little bit. But I don't want people to forget about the skill set, because he's a really good route runner. He's a guy that in PPR formats, potentially based on where he could go, he's probably going to be a guy that'll put plenty of points in your lineup. So I didn't want people to forget about Antonio Williams. He's had a couple really good games since coming back, and he's still flashed that talent. And with Bryant Wesco going down and TJ Moore just being inconsistent, he's kind of just naturally been relegated back to that primary option for Cade Klubnik. So can't forget about him. I think he's still a day 2 guy. If the season ended right now, based on his entire profile, he'd probably be like a late 2nd round, early 3rd round type of guy. But he's got the skill set to fit in the multitude of offenses. So he's a guy that I can easily see being drafted and then produces, and the community's like, whoa, where did this dude come from? So I did just want to give him his flowers.
Yo, before we get back to the show, hit your boys up with a 5-star review on Spotify and or iTunes, submit proof, and get entered to win a free year in the pleasure chest over on Patreon.
And then I'm ending this tier, Chev, with another tight end, somebody that I've been really big on. Some people don't like him because they say, oh, he's an older player, didn't break out until this time. I think that there's a lot of context behind that between him being a young knucklehead and getting suspended for things on teams, having to transfer around multiple times, some injuries that have kept him out multiple seasons. But man, when he's on the field, he flashes that dominant upside. Like, he looks like an alpha wide receiver out there playing the slot position, making one-handed catches, contested catches, routing people up. Like, he's just a really fun player to watch. I think he might have the most upside of any of these tight ends in this class. So I had to recognize him here as my final 15th player in these tiers.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So just run through your C tier one more time for the people.
Of course, that would be starting off with Eli Stowers, tight end out of Vanderbilt. Then we have Antonio Williams, wide receiver from Clemson, and ending it off with tight end Michael Trigg from Baylor.
Nice. Mine is a guy that you mentioned already. My C tier starts off with Chris Brazzell. You've already hit on. I mean, there's a second round that PF Pro Football Sports Network right now has a second round grade on the big boards for him. And Chris Bell would be my other C tier player. I think he's getting a lot of first round buzz now. You've seen him. I think there's some technical refinement that needs to take place, but the type of athlete that this dude is just one of those guys that you see and you're immediately like, oh yes, that's a Sunday guy. He is,
for sure.
Yeah. And if you link him with a guy who just can throw him open and create opportunities, cough, cough, Buffalo Bills, I think that this is a recipe for immense profit with a guy who a lot of people aren't familiar with yet. But, you're trading for those picks. You're doing this. Just keep in mind that these are guys that I know people said, this class sucks and you shouldn't trade for them. But we're in the trenches now. Football's happening again. And guys have gotten better over the summer and emerged. So, yeah, that would close out my C tier. I just got Chris Brazzell and Chris Bell out of Louisville.
I love it, man. I like the Chris Bell shout out. He's somebody that we had talked about in the mock draft episode. I move him all around, man. I struggle with where to place him. I believe in the talent. I love when he gets rolling in space, man. Like he could really create. I think he's an underrated contested catch guy. And like you said, he definitely needs some technical refinement. But if he puts it all together, man, he's an amazing athlete out there. The combination of speed to power that he can present out there in the field, man, it's not something that you see a lot of wide receivers be able to do. Chris from the Devi Dojo always talks about he's like a Debo Samuel type player. And like I've told you, man, I always struggle with those comps because everybody wants to be Debo. But when you see that man rolling with those thick thighs and blazing by you, it's easy to see that Debo comp. So if he's able to put it all together, I think he could be one of the biggest risers. And he looks like a guy that could probably rise after a good combine performance.
Thick thighs and
thick thighs
by you.
Yeah. Thick thighs flies, man.
Okay. All right. I would I think that I like the comp to, I like to comp him or compare him to Anquan Bolden. That's kind of
that's a good one.
I think he's more athletic, but that physicality and violence that he runs with at the, just at the catch point, just getting real intentional about being very physical whenever the ball is in his hands and you decide to get in his way. Are there any other guys that you wanted to throw out there for the people to get familiar with before we get out of here?
Yeah, I think you had him as well, but Kaytron Allen's a guy that I have to talk about, right? After the performance that he's put on this year, like it hasn't gone according to plan for Penn State, and the guy that we thought would be the big dog in that offense, Nick Singleton, he's looked like a day 3 guy. And so then you've had Kaytron Allen emerge from the shadows, man, and from the depths. And he's really just taken over the backfield. He's always had really good vision, runs with physicality. He's having a great season that many aren't talking about because of how Penn State has performed this year. But I think he's a sneaky guy with some upside here and somebody that a lot of people aren't talking about.
No, I'm with you 100%. I've been very vocal about Kaytron for some time, and then just I mean, we don't have to talk about the other guys. You already hit; they're in your C tier. Or Jeremy Bernard. You're higher on Jeremy Bernard than I am, but I wanted to make sure that I did. Like he's one of the ones, and he's been the best and most consistent Bama receiver. And then I love Michael Trigg, so no need for elaboration there. Before we get out of here, though, tell the people where they can find all your work. Talk about the Substack. Don't shortchange us. Tell us where we can find everything.
Okay. Of course, you did mention the Substack. If you go to the website Substack, just type in, search The Devi Dojo. You'll find the publication. We give 3 weekly staggered articles at a minimum. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 5. But the good news is it's all free. So just go in there. You could subscribe. You could subscribe to any of the authors there for the publication. I'm one of them. And then, of course, you could go to my Twitter. I have a link tree. follow that. And I got links to the YouTube, the podcast formats, everything that we've got going on. I can't even think of them all right now, Chef. We're just doing so much, but we're giving you a lot of high quality content for free right now. So just go ahead, like it up, follow us, and just help us grow. And of course, I'm always going to be locked in with my guy here, Chev, and everybody at the FFD.
Beautiful, man. If you want more of the old Chef GPT, you know where to find me. Follow me on Twitter at Chev90 or whatever. I don't even know, but yeah, go follow me. There's a link tree, all that stuff. As I always leave you guys, there's ball watchers, ball knowers. We'll see you next time.